Okay, so now I'm picking back up with after the life cycles, which ended at 1.2.4.1, with a little more on projects. Talking now about the project groups. Before I do that, though, I wanted to go over and I'm just slipping tab. Okay, a couple of key terms. A project phase 1.2.4.2. The project phase is logically related activities that result in deliverables. And so keep in mind that you'll use these phases throughout the project. And that we're actually going to have define a project gate in 1.2.4.3. A project gate, this is a new term to the project management body of knowledge, is held at the end of each phase, and where you might compare the project performance and look at the level of detail and assess expected changes. And sometimes phase gates can be referred to by other terms, like a phase review, a stage gate, a kill point, I've heard it work, a phase entrance, or a phase exit. And if you look back then from phase gate to page 20, you'll see that entrance criteria and exit criteria can be a phase gate tied then to the project phase. Okay, so moving on to page 22, it talks about the project management processes. And so the life cycle that we talked about is managed by running the processes. And so the processes then, which all these processes apply globally across all industries. And that's why I mentioned the PMBOK guide is really a framework, not a methodology, not how I'm going to do it specifically, but I as a project manager will develop which processes, inputs, tools, and outputs I use. Okay? And so in these, I have, moving to page 23, process groups. These are linked by integrated results that they produce, and they're iterative in nature. And the process groups form an acronym I call IPEC, initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing. Though I am referring to controlling, it's really monitoring and controlling, and we'll make a distinction later. But for now, IPEC, just to remember the 5 process groups, where processes are grouped together because they are related. Okay? And I will, initiating is what authorizes the project and defines the project. It gives the project manager authority and formally recognizes your project. Those terms that I just said are test type terms. Formally recognizes the project and authorizes you, the project manager, to use resources. The detail in initiating is high level in the charter, but at the same time, it is measurable. In the planning processes next, the detail grows and it becomes concrete. The facts speak, they become much more detailed. So in the initiating, it's measurable. In planning, the scope and other things become detailed. Okay? In executing then, we're carrying out what we just planned. And that actually happens at the same time as monitoring and controlling, which is working to ensure the objectives are met, the objectives we planned for and initiate and planning that we are building for and executing, and we're looking for variance analysis. And then, of course, we'll close a project, which frankly means we accept or we get the customer to accept the deliverable. Okay? This is tied to the knowledge areas, and I'd like you to refer them to page 25 of the PMBOK guide, table 1-4. The process groups across the top are high-level, IPEC, a way to integrate processes that are related. The knowledge areas become your subject matter expertise. What expertise, what team members am I going to have who who have expertise are going to run certain processes to help me. And so the very first process I'm going to do is initiating. If you look at 4.1, and I'm going to develop the project charter. Then in initiating, I'm going to go down and I'm going to identify stakeholders, which is listed in 13.1. When you see 4 to 13, those refer to the chapter numbers in the PMBOK guide related to those knowledge areas. Okay, so I have defined on this slide the knowledge areas and how you can know them. Know that they all go by multiple names. These are knowledge areas, which become management plans. So there's a scope management plan, a schedule management plan, a cost management plan, etc. They also are called constraints because a cost is a constraint on your project. Quality is a constraint on your project. Risk is a constraint on your project, etc. And they're also called subsidiary plans because they are sub to the project management plan. So subsidiary plans, constraints are also called methodologies. The scope management plan is the methodology I will use to define and carry out scope. The schedule management plan is the methodology, the how I will use to carry out the schedule or time-phased activities. So keep that in mind as you look through these. These go by various names, all meaning the same thing. I did want to point out some key terms, and this is referred to on page 26. But in doing so, if I'm going to measure variance that I just mentioned, I have to do it with something. And so I will collect work performance data, which is just raw data. The term raw should clue you into that it's work performance data. And that is given to you when I'm executing. I'm collecting just the raw information. Then I will analyze it, which gives me work performance information. And I'm doing that in the controlling process group. And finally, I will have work performance reports. Now, this is that information that's been analyzed, and it's now been put into short reports, compiled reports, an executive summary, a one-page summary. In the Air Force, we used to call it a knee board for the general when they would travel, like pilots use when they fly. So, and that will generate decisions or actions. The reports you will find in the controlling process groups, that's what I mean by PG, or executing process groups. Okay? Now, the project management plan that we develop must be tailored. So as I've mentioned many times now, the PMBOK guide itself is a framework that fits into any project. And we as project managers use, if you look back on page 25, at the very top, number 4, you see project integration management. That's who you are. That's what you do as a project manager. You are integrating all 49 processes through these processes 4.1 to 4.7. That's who you are, and those are yours. So you are tailoring the project throughout. Okay? To begin the tailoring process, we started at a very high level, strategic level, and so the company, the C-suite, gives us the business case. And also we then have a benefits management plan. Now, not every company does this, I understand. This is the ideal way to do it, the good practices that we talked about. This would be what is tested on a professional certification exam. But realize that your company may or may not do this. It doesn't make them wrong necessarily. It means they've chosen not to use those steps. Sometimes that's the right answer. Sometimes we have to take the knowledge we've learned and assess and offer the company something better that will produce better deliverables. Because we're going to take this, see the picture on the right, the business case and the benefits management. And we, the project managers, are going to develop a charter which defines success, and those are going to really result in our deliverables through the project plan that we built in the executing process group and that we controlled. Okay. So frankly, now we're at pre-source selection. Is our project selected? Is it chosen to go forward? So the C-suite up there, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, CIO, etc., CISO, they will do a business case, and that will tell us why we need this project. And it can be for internal needs, like a new training program, or external influences, like Apple builds the iPhone, and so Samsung says, hey, we need the Galaxy. Okay. It could also result from a statement of work that another company has signed with you, or contracts or agreements. Okay. And the project manager's role at this point, with the business case in hand from the C-suite, prior to going to the charter, is you're going to tie, the project has to tie to the organization's strategic plan. Every single project is a result of corporate strategy execution. Okay? So traditionally, what measures success in project management? Traditionally, it's time, cost, scope, and someone add quality or others. The new PMBOK guide takes us to other measures of success in addition to time, cost, and scope. It would include links to organizational strategy, things that are measurable, return on investment, payback period, etc., which I will cover in the next lesson.